Breaking news. Why Rheinmetall's artillery ammo plant in Ukraine still hasn't been built. It is Saturday, January 17th, 2026. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. I'm Alex. Join me with Arya in the latest podcast by Defense Report for a sharp, no-nonsense breakdown of the latest in global defense news, military technology, and strategic developments. And today we are covering a story that is, well, it's less a logistical delay and more like a geopolitical thriller. So here's the situation. I want you to go back with me to July 2024. The mood was really optimistic, cameras flashing, big handshakes. The German defense giant Rheinmetall signs this huge headline-grabbing contract to build an artillery ammunition plant right inside Ukraine.
And the promise was explicit. We will be producing shells within 24 months. It was this massive signal to the world.
Exactly. It wasn't just about aid packages anymore.
No, this was supposed to be Western industrial might actually planting a flag on the front line, integrating Ukraine into Europe's defense infrastructure for good.
The promise of self-sufficiency. But here's the twist, and honestly, it's a painful one. Today is January 17th, 2026.
Yeah.
That 24-month clock is almost at zero. And the factory...
It isn't just unfinished?
Not even started.
Yeah.
According to our sources, construction hasn't even begun.
It's a ghost project. And what makes this so baffling and frankly pretty damning for the planners is the comparison. In that same time frame, Rheinmetall built a high-tech plant in Germany in just 15 months.
15 months.
And another one in Hungary in 18 months.
So wait, let me get this straight. They can build them at home, they can build them for neighbors who are at peace, but the one country that is literally fighting a high-intensity artillery war for its survival is left with an empty lot.
That's the multi-billion-dollar question we're answering today. And spoiler alert, it's not just bureaucracy. That's the easy excuse, right?
Yeah.
We are going to dig into this massive global supply chain crisis for explosive chemicals and, get this, cotton from China.
Cotton. Okay, you have to explain that.
We will. It's the choke point nobody talks about. We're also going to look at the clash between Western peace economies and the brutal reality of a war economy. But here's the flip side. Despite this massive delay, Ukraine has somehow, miraculously, managed to produce 40% of its own defense needs.
And you mentioned something about a plant in Lithuania that's going to make this whole thing look even worse.
Oh, absolutely. A plant started in Lithuania way later, November 2024, is on track to beat the Ukrainian plant to the finish line.
Yeah, okay, we need to get into this. Let's solve the mystery.
Let's do it.
So, starting with the breaking news from Defense Express, the timeline here is just, it's painful to read. The original plan was for this plant to be pumping out 300,000 shells a year.
Correct. Production was supposed to be starting basically right now, summer 2026, at the absolute latest.
And because not a single brick has been laid, the realistic timeline for the first shell rolling off that assembly line is, what, 2027?
2027, if they're lucky. That's a huge gap.
That is an eternity in a war. A year's gap in artillery supply could mean losing entire regions. It means soldiers rationing shells while the enemy just keeps firing.
Exactly. It completely changes the tactical calculus on the ground.
So who dropped the ball here? I mean, when a project this big stalls, the finger-pointing starts. What is Rheinmetall saying?
Well, their narrative has been, let's say, fluid. If you look at their CEO, Armin Papriker, the story has changed a couple of times. Back in August 2025, he went on record blaming Ukrainian bureaucracy. The classic red tape in Kyiv is choking the project.
Which, to be fair, is a common complaint. We hear that a lot.
It is, and sometimes it's valid. But then by November 2025, the story shifted. Suddenly it wasn't just paperwork. Rheinmetall claimed the Ukrainian government decided to change the location of the plant.
Okay, well, that's a big deal. I mean, if Russia finds out where you're building, you have to move it. That's just operational security.
It could be. But here's where it gets murky. We're hearing from anonymous execs at other defense firms who are kind of suggesting that Rheinmetall might have just overpromised.
So they're saying the timeline was never realistic to begin with.
That's the suggestion. That blaming the location or the bureaucracy is a convenient way to buy themselves some time while they figure things out internally.
And that theory gets a lot more weight when you look at the other factories you mentioned.
Exactly. Look at Unterlüß, Germany. A brand new, complex ammo factory built in 15 months. It's running right now. Then you have Lithuania. They started in November 2024, and they are on track to be operational this summer.
So a NATO country at peace gets its factory faster than Ukraine. It really feels like a risk assessment issue, doesn't it? Is Rheinmetall just afraid to actually pour concrete in a war zone?
It's highly likely a major factor. It feels like the peace economy of Europe still hasn't fully woken up to the urgency. They're still operating on commercial risk logic, protecting assets, not on survival logic.
But, and this is a really important distinction, if you just read that Rheinmetall headline, you'd think Ukraine's entire domestic industry was failing. But that's not actually the case, is it?
Not even close. And this is where the story shifts from, frustration to just pure admiration. If we zoom out and look at the data from the New Europe Center, we see an industrial miracle happening.
Walk us through the numbers.
In 2022, at the start of the full-scale invasion, Ukraine relied on foreign aid for 90% of its military gear. Total dependency.
I remember that. Begging for everything.
Right. Fast forward to last year, 2025, Ukraine produced 40% of its own defense needs domestically.
40%. That is an incredible jump, especially when your factories are literal targets. How?
Well, they're not doing it alone, despite this one delay. There's what you could call a co-production fever going on. You have KNDS, the French-German giant, setting up repair hubs for Caesar howitzers and Leopard tanks right there, in country. Northrop Grumman signed ammo production deals.
And I've been reading about these Frankenstein weapons. I love that term. What exactly is that?
It is survival engineering at its absolute finest. It's taking Western missiles and hacking them to work on old Soviet-era launchers.
No.
Yeah, like putting American Sea Sparrow missiles on a Soviet BUK system. Or integrating modern radar onto old vehicle chassis. It's messy, it's not by the book, but it works.
It really feels like the West realized way too late that just donating old equipment wasn't going to cut it.
Precisely. Donations were a band-aid. Industrial integration is the cure, and Ukraine is doing the heavy lifting themselves. They aren't waiting to be saved anymore.
Okay, let's get to the why behind the ammo delay. You mentioned something in the intro that really stuck with me. You said it's not about bricks and mortar, it's about chemicals.
This is the aha moment of the entire ammunition crisis in the West. It's the hidden bottleneck.
Okay, lay it on us.
So you ask yourself, if we have the money and we have the steel to make the casing, why can't we just churn out millions of shells? The problem isn't the metal, it's the chemistry. It's what goes inside the shell. Gunpowder and propellants.
I feel like we take gunpowder for granted. It's been around forever. How is it a bottleneck now?
Because it's not the old black powder. Modern artillery needs highly specific, stable propellants to fire a shell 40 kilometers accurately. And at the very heart of that propellant is a substance called nitrocellulose.
Nitrocellulose.
Think of it as gun cotton. It's a key explosive ingredient, and to make it you need something called cotton linters, these very specific short fibers from the cotton plant. And guess who is the world's largest producer of cotton?
Oh, I have a very bad feeling about this. It's China.
It is China.
Of course it is.
And here's the kicker. For decades, Western environmental regulations got really strict. Making nitrocellulose involves nitric and sulfuric acid. It's what the industry calls a filthy business.
So we offshored it.
We offshored it. We outsourced the pollution. And in doing so, we outsource our ability to defend ourselves. We let our main strategic adversary, China, become the primary supplier of the raw material we need to shoot at Russia.
That is a strategic failure on a scale that is almost hard to comprehend. Is there any way around this? Or are we stuck?
There is hope, and innovation is kicking in. BAE Systems in the UK is a great example. They're developing a new chemical process using RDX, which is a different high explosive, to create propellant that doesn't rely on cotton.
So like a synthetic gunpowder.
Sort of, yeah. It bypasses the need for Chinese cotton entirely. If they can scale this up, it's a total game changer for NATO security. It breaks the dependency.
That's huge. But that kind of innovation costs money. Which brings us to financing. I read that Ukraine has something like a $35 billion production capacity, but only enough contracts for a third of that.
And that's the tragedy. They have the factory space and the engineers, but the state budget is just crushed by the war. And this is where we're seeing this new, really smart idea emerge, the Danish model.
The Danish model, how is that different from just sending aid?
It's so much more direct. Traditionally, aid is when, say, the US gives money to its own companies to build stuff, which then gets shipped to Ukraine months later. The Danish model flips that. Denmark's putting money directly into Ukrainian manufacturing accounts.
So they're funding Ukrainian factories directly on Ukrainian soil.
Exactly. In 2024, it was about $550 million. In 2025, over $1 billion. It cuts out the middleman, it creates jobs in Ukraine, it supports their economy, and most importantly, it's just so much faster.
That seems like a complete no-brainer. Why isn't everyone doing this?
It comes back to the B word again, bureaucracy. And, trust. Western governments have been terrified of corruption, that the cash might disappear.
And we have to be honest, there have been scandals, the inflated food prices, the drone kickbacks. That fear isn't baseless.
No, it's not. But Ukraine has reacted. They created new agencies, the DOT and the DPA, specifically to clean up procurement and meet NATO standards. They're trying.
It is a bit of a double standard, though, isn't it? Western firms complain about Ukrainian bureaucracy, but have you ever tried to get a permit to build a factory in Germany in peacetime? It can take years.
That is a very, very good point. The Danish model just proved that if you accept a calculated risk, you get results faster. Denmark seems to understand the risk of losing the war is way higher than the risk of some inefficiency.
Speaking of results, let's pivot to where Ukraine is absolutely crushing it. While they're waiting for these shells, they've been busy building drones.
This is the asymmetric revolution. If you can't match them shell for shell, you match them drone for soldier.
Yeah.
In 2024, Ukraine produced nearly 2 million drones.
2 million, that number is just staggering.
And for 2025, they're on track for 3 to 4 million. It's mass production on a scale we haven't seen since WWII, but with high-tech robotics.
And it's not just the quantity, is it? It feels like Ukraine has become the ultimate battlefield testing ground for Western tech.
It's the land of opportunities for defense tech. Things are happening there that military theorists said were impossible. I mean, look at the Patriot system. Before Ukraine, nobody was sure it could stop Russia's hypersonic Kinzhal missile.
And then Ukraine shot one down.
May 2023. They proved the unstoppable missile was a myth. That data is priceless. Or get this, the German Panzerhaubitze 2000. Its barrel is rated for 4,500 shots.
Right.
In Ukraine, they're getting 20,000 shots out of them.
Wait, 20,000? That's more than 4 times the lifespan.
Yes. They are proving that Western engineering is actually tougher than the manufacturers even knew. This data is Ukraine's currency. They're basically telling partners, come build here, we'll show you what your weapons can really do.
But building there, we have to circle back to the risk. The real reason Rheinmetall is delaying isn't just paperwork. It's the threat of bombs.
We can't forget that. Russia reads the news. When Rheinmetall announced the plant, Russia immediately called it a legitimate target.
So how do you build a huge centralized factory when the enemy has cruise missiles aimed at your construction site?
You don't. You decentralize. That's why the drone industry is so successful. They're not building in one giant factory. They're building in random offices, garages, basements, all over the country.
Harder to manage, but impossible to decapitate with one strike.
Exactly. But you can't really brew up the chemicals for 155 millimeter shells in a garage. That requires heavy industry, and that's the challenge for the Rheinmetall plant. It's a big, static target.
And there's one other shortage we need to talk about. Not just cotton, but people.
The brain drain. It's a critical challenge. Between mobilization for the front lines and millions of people emigrating for safety, Ukraine is facing a shortage of skilled engineers. You can build a factory, but who is going to run the machines?
It's a tragic catch-22. You need soldiers to fight the war, but you need workers to build the weapons for those soldiers.
It is the central dilemma of a total war economy.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. We started with this missing factory. Rheinmetall made a promise in 2024, and here we are in 2026, looking at an empty lot.
And it's a serious blow. It proves that desperately needed ammunition relief out to 2027. That's a very dangerous gap.
But in that gap, Ukraine didn't just wait. They adapted. They leaned into the Danish model to get cash directly. They scaled up drone production to millions of units because they couldn't wait for Western construction timelines.
And the West is finally, slowly waking up from its peace economy slumber. We are all realizing that high-tech factories mean absolutely nothing if the raw ingredients, the gunpowder, come from a strategic adversary like China.
It feels like this whole story is a microcosm of the war itself. The old way of doing things, slow, centralized, bureaucratic, is failing. The new way, distributed, fast, and adaptive, is what's keeping Ukraine in the fight.
Absolutely, and I want to leave you with this one thought. We're worried about a delay in Ukraine, but think bigger. If a major war broke out involving NATO directly tomorrow and China decided to cut off the cotton supply, how long could the West actually keep firing its artillery?
That's a terrifying question.
The delay in Ukraine isn't just a Ukrainian problem. It is a blaring warning siren for the entire European defense industry. We are just now realizing our supply chains are made of glass.
And that is something every policymaker needs to be thinking about tonight. You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Aria, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry. Subscribe to Defense Reports. your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.